Aloha, welcome back to Aina Bear Farm. Just got kind of a multitude of updates for you guys today. It's December 2023. We're kind of getting to the wrapping up the year sort of mentality. We're not out of the drought, but we've had a weather shift. We've had quite a bit of rain the last 2 to 3 weeks. And so a lot of things are starting to grow again and green back up. It's really nice. And we're here by our newer agroforestry system. This is kind of a linear system. It's just a little unusual for me, but I wanted to expand with some places that had irrigation lines. So you can see irrigation line here. There's one in the middle and then one at the top. And this is a system that if you haven't seen in previous videos where we're going to be doing an alternation of mango, banana, mango, banana, mango, banana. And I'd actually hoped to have some grafted mangoes to get in this winter. All but one of the grafting attempts that I have tried has failed. And so I keep kind of going back to the drawing board trying to figure out if there's something I'm doing wrong or if I'm just having bad luck or having, maybe not great rootstock for grafting. But I'm also keeping my eyes out for just purchasing some grafted mangoes at this point too, because at this point I feel kind of like I'm behind in the game where I wanted to be. But you can see the jack beans, these are new, coming in down this line down here. It's kind of a cover crop, get some nitrogen fixing going in there. You've already got these Namwa bananas established down there, and then not much else. And as I kind of swing back to the more established part of this system that's been in for a while, do have some cool things that have been going on. So we had some huge pigeon pea growing back here. I'll kind of zoom in on some of the stumps here. So these big stumps, they were bushing out maybe 10 feet tall, and this whole area was like in complete shade, and it was really great. They did their job, and then we finally got a hold of a wood chipper, and so we cut them down with a chainsaw, ran them through the wood chipper, and now we've got this really fantastic compost mulch mix. And so what I've done is piled that up pretty deep around where the mangoes are going to go. So we're just enriching the soil there, and then some of these pigeon pea stumps will regrow, but like these here, I don't see any new shoots coming out of them. So quite a few of them will probably just die, and that's fine. The roots underground will add that extra organic material. You can see a lot of the racks of Namwa bananas coming down in this system. We've got a little cassava that might do a little better now that we've got a little more light coming in. Some turmeric or olena that's kind of left over. We do have a little bit of kalo or taro coming in here. And some of our native plants, this lay, again, just got so choked out for light that they just haven't been able to do much. Some coleus back here. So, like I said, hopefully now that we've kind of opened this up, we'll revisit increasing the diversity of plants back here. But in the meantime, got a lot of bananas coming in. And if you're on an island and you have any idea of a really good resource for named varieties of grafted mangoes, let me know in the comments section. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. These Namwas have been prolific producers on my property, and they're one of my favorite tasting bananas, so pretty stoked about that. And then we had this huge moringa down here that was like maybe 20 feet tall. So I topped it here and dried the leaves and then ground them up in an old coffee grinder that I had. And I've just made powder with them and throw that into smoothies and stuff. That's a pretty good way to consume it. And then you can see the new shoots coming out there. Moringa is something that I have actually planted a lot of it on the property, and haven't really gotten a ton of benefits from it. It's kind of been really sporadic. Like some places on the property it grows really well and others not at all. And so it's one that I want to continue to plant. I think I've mostly just relied on it to be a little bit too self-sustaining, and I need to, provide a little better fertility and irrigation. But this one has definitely been a good one. I just want to show this really quick because in the last video I had shown this section of perennial peanut and just how decimated it had gotten by the drought. And so if you saw that, maybe thinking, wow, taking a look at it now, it's just incredible how quickly it bounces back. You can just see a lot of nice new kind of spring green looking fresh growth in there. So really happy to see that. And then things like the coleus bouncing back really nicely too. So one of the things that we do this time of year is we prune a lot of our tithonia. So you can see tithonia here that I use as a windbreak in a lot of spots. And this one has been left up because it's also providing a little shade for a mangosteen tree that's on the other side of that. But here, closer to me, I've got 3 clumps, 1, 2, 3, that have all been pruned back to about knee height. And you can see how quick they come back. I mean, I pruned these like a week ago, and they're already just full of new growth shoots on there. These were a windbreak for this Rollinia tree, which, as you might be able to tell by how relatively defoliated it is, it's just really sensitive to the wind and really not happy with some of the stronger winds that we have here. This tree is pretty good size. It's been in the ground for 4 years and has never fruited. It's got a lot of flowers. I mean, it's covered in flowers now. Still no fruit, and I have no doubt that that's at least in part to how it just routinely gets defoliated. It just can't, seem to get enough strength. But in the past, we would break down these tithonia by hand and just kind of have these bigger sticks and things laying around the trees, and which is great. But as you can imagine, those take a while to break down. They just, they don't compact. They don't get that kind of like pressure component of decomposition that's really helpful. And so now with the wood chipper, we are going to be chipping a lot of these tithonia. And so we've actually come through the property and piled up a lot of piles like this. And we're just letting them dry out a little bit. We're trying to, at least. Now it's getting a lot more rain. There goes Pulu, excited food forest dog. So yeah, we're stoked to see a little bit more rapid decomposition with these piles, and hoping that when we pile those up around our trees, that it'll really help to break down some of this older material too. It'll keep it more consistently moist and give it that pressure that it needs to feed the trees. Here you can see more piles of tithonia, all the flower heads that were on there, pile there. And so right now we're a little bit barren out here in our section 3. And so it's kind of a more vulnerable time, but the tithonia, it gets so spindly between the drought and just the way it kind of grows that really isn't doing a whole lot of good anymore anyways. And these plants were planted pretty close to the fruit trees that they're supporting. And so as they get really big, they kind of provide a little too much shade. They reduce the airflow. Their roots start to compete with the trees. So they really do need to come down. And that's why it's so important for us to have these interspersed rows that I talked about in my last video, where we were kind of talking about some ways that we're trying to mitigate the drought effects. And so these tithonia, you can see them really starting to spread out now. I've got a full row going this way, and I added another row in this same section. So we'll kind of have 2 layers of wind support coming this way, and then there'll actually be a third line in that upper section there. And then these in-between trees like this kukui, there's an ice cream bean and stuff, they're going to get bigger too and provide some extra wind blockage and some shade in those immediate vicinities. But like this is a meringue tree over here, like it's got a good distance, more than 10 feet I believe, between those two to kind of really let the meringue spread out on its own, but hopefully still provide some wind protection at the same time. This is a cool little native plant called a'ali'i. It's very common here, especially on the drier sides of the island. This thing is a survivor. I mean, it just, any kind of weather, it's going to do fine. And it's getting ready to flower the first time. So even though it's pretty tiny, it makes really pretty flowers that are sometimes used in lei here. So that's pretty cool. Looks like Polo has found some kind of creature to play with. Oh man, luckiest dog in the world. And provides me a lot of endless entertainment. Right behind me, pardon me while I pan around, is this is one of the mapulehu. So this is one of the varieties I've talked about that's done really well here. Fruited for the first time last year. And just a couple of fruits, but we're expecting a nice decent harvest this year. And mango is so interesting here because I just kind of feel like it will grow at any time of year. It's sort of random. You can see there's some swelling buds, which makes me think that this one is getting ready to have another growth spurt. And I just have been pruning it and pruning it. It's very vigorous, trying to keep it a little more open, but it just wants to keep filling back in, but that's okay. Another thing you might notice is like how tall some of the grass is, and some of this. So this is zone 2, and this is a zone that we try to manage a lot more heavily. Now the upper zone 2s have a lot of the perennial peanut ground cover, but we haven't made it down to this area yet with that ground cover, and still mostly this guinea grass. And it's kind of annoying because this time of year what will happen is the grass, the thick part of the grass is really only about a foot high, but then it grows these spindly seed heads, up to 4 or 5 feet high, which it seems to do as a response to like the drought and flood type of conditions, because we did not have any measurable rain for 2.5 months, and then we had 11 or 12 inches in the last 3 weeks. And so that seems to signal to the guinea grass like, oh, hey, let's make flowers and tons of grass pollen and tons of grass seed. And, it's itchy and the pollen just blows all over you while you're working. So it's kind of annoying, but, not that big of a deal. But we got to get the BCS tractor out here pretty soon and just mow this stuff down, keep it a little more manageable. So we head through here is a nice Gliricidia. More piles of mostly Tithonia, a little bit of pigeon pea. And this is another mango that you can probably tell it has leafed out recently. So these are like new, fresh leaves. This is Nandok Mai. So another one that's done really well. And as I make my way down to close to the bottom of zone 2, this is the Kerry mango. It's kind of, actually I see quite a lot of new buds coming on it. So this is another one I think has done really well. But what I mainly wanted to show you was, this is Gliricidia, which is very kind of strange looking right now. This was a very dense tree last week, and we took a lot of this material out, so now it's just waiting to get chipped. And we've got a loquat here. It's a grafted, this is the golden nugget. You can actually see some little fruits on there already. So looking forward to those. It's one, I think, one of the most underrated fruits of the food forests here. But behind it, let me kind of come swing around this way, is the Malabar chestnut, which is a really beautiful, tropical looking tree that makes an edible, oily nut. And this tree's done really well, so it has definitely enjoyed having a little bit of shade over here, but I felt like it really could benefit from opening a little more light up. And so I took out a lot of the sort of interior structure of that Gliricidia, which is kind of funny. It's hard to do. Like, I plant the Gliricidia specifically for this. Pump nitrogen into the ground, create a lot of biomass, create some shade, but it's still hard because they're these big gorgeous trees like this one. There's another Gliricidia right nearby, and it feels so nice and foresty. A little fern underneath it. This is mangosteen, and you just don't want to lose that feeling. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard to do this to a tree, but it's part of the system. It's part of the way it needs to be managed, and maybe I'll get more used to it as I do it more. Here's some cacao. So as many of you probably know, Gliricidia is one of its common names is Madre de Cacao, or the mother of cacao, because they're commonly used as the shade trees for cacao. And I've got cacao growing in a few spots, supported by different trees in the area, and I notice a much better general growth habit when it's supported specifically by cacao. So I think it really benefits from the nitrogen, and I don't know, something else maybe specific from it, but just wanted to check that out for a moment. And we'll just head this way and look at a couple last few things. This video is not crazy long. This is our newer section of white pineapples, coming along well. Our older section has been like completely overgrown, and we're getting ready to reorient that row. It was curved on contour, and I want to straighten it out to make it easier to irrigate. So it's going to now follow the same line as this, and so I'll be cleaning up this area quite a bit soon. I had wanted to just wait until we harvested all the white pineapples. Let's see, we'll finish here on this ulu because we've got some lovely fruit to look at. So we've got quite a few fruits on this guy, and then you can also see we're continuing to do some air layers. So always propagating some new trees. Some more fruit here and here. So this is really exciting. I mean, just to have this steady supply of carbohydrates, like tree potatoes. And we have really worked a lot of ulu into our diet. And I don't know, it's like eating a potato. You get that caloric density, but I feel like you get an increased nutrition profile. So here you can see we got dark clouds again. There's no rain in the forecast, but our forecasts here are notoriously unreliable. So we shall see. But I appreciate you joining us. Oh, actually, before we go, I'm going to throw in one more thing. Let me skip to it. Hang on. So in our bigger agroforestry system that we've been focusing on a lot lately, we have put in some of our fruit trees. So there's one of our new ulu. So that is an air layer propagated off of some trees that we've had. And then we've also put in ice cream beans down this midline. So we've put those every 20 feet. So now we've got our main fruit tree lines with our bananas, and then a variety of the ulu, soursop, and longan. We've got lines of the tithonia, lines of ice cream bean, tithonia, fruit tree rows, and then we just repeat that pattern with 3 total fruit tree rows, and everything's just looking fantastic. especially with all the rain. We've got soursop down here, and so that's kind of the size that we're putting them in after they were potted up. And then we just kind of stay on top of this pigeon pea around it, make sure that it's got a little shade but not excessive. You know, we want airflow and some light to get in there, but we'd like to give it kind of that dappled shade when it's young. And then finally, up there is south. So in the winter, as the sun dips down, we just have to keep an eye on the amount of sunlight that we're getting on this top row if we need to manage that grass line at all. It's a very steep hill right there, so it's a pain to manage, and I don't really want to have to deal with it if I don't need to, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So thanks for joining us. Sorry this video turned out a little long. Guess we had a lot of different updates to show off, but hopefully it's been interesting, and we'll see you back here soon at Aina Bear Farm. Aloha.